Our next guest is a storyteller and a strategist whose work is all about centering the rights of Antarctica. She isn't a lawyer, she's a campaigner on a mission to pass the Declaration for the Rights of Antarctica, to recognize the continent as a living entity with its own right to exist, rather than a no man's land, which it is currently, which is being exploited. She works closely with indigenous communities from New Zealand to Canada to bring ancestral wisdom into the frozen South. So please welcome Global Campaign Lead for the Antarctic Rights Alliance, Roberta Bosu.
Thanks for the disclaimer that I'm not a lawyer.
You're not a lawyer.
Exactly.
We've
Thanks.
got that.
We got that.
We won't hold you liable for anything that you say.
Exactly.
Thank you, Roberta. So tell us about your work. Antarctica is the only place on Earth that no one owns. Just think about that for a sec. No one owns Antarctica. So to some, I think that makes it a sanctuary, but to others, it means that it's ripe for exploitation because it can't stand up for itself, basically. I believe there was a historic ban on mining in the region a few years ago, but that's being weakened at the moment. Tell us why it's so urgent now that we give Antarctica legal personhood before the oil drillers arrive.
So Antarctica is an earth keeper, and that's something that I always want to highlight, because for a lot of people, and including me before working on this campaign, Antarctica was just a block of ice in the south, in the bottom of the world, full of penguins and whales. That's it, it's cold, I'm not gonna go there, no. But actually Antarctica is very much connected with all of us. Is connecting the global currents in the ocean, the global weathers, is really affecting our daily lives, but no one of us is actually thinking about it. And Antarctica doesn't have a voice, because if you think even about the global conferences, like the UN conference, we all have our own tag, Italy, Spain, all the countries. Where is Antarctica? Because the fact that there is no indigenous population in Antarctica means that it doesn't have a seat in this international decision-making processes. And so it means that there is no voice. Like, you cannot really hear what Antarctica wants and what Antarctica has to say. And this makes it also a special place, because at the same time, we all belong to Antarctica. We can all be citizens of Antarctica. And so this makes it also an opportunity of rethinking what's happening. So at the moment, just from a governance perspective, there is the Antarctic Treaty System. There is a treaty that was signed on 1959 by 12 countries that then became 29, and then right now there are 58, and only 29 countries take decisions by consensus. So let it sink. 58 countries out of 195, and the Pacific Islands are not even included in this treaty. So from a governance perspective, then one of the articles is binding mining, so what you said as well. And there is the option in 2048, so 50 years after that the Antarctic Treaty System has been signed, to review this mining ban. Of course, like, it's going to be difficult as well, because it needs to have a consensus, it needs to be proposed. Yep. But what we need to consider is also that, yes, this treaty is strong, but the context outside is changing, like the US, Russia, and all this research for resources is increasing.
And currently, just to check, there is no mining going on currently in Antarctica,
no.
because the ban is in place.
Yes. But there are some rumors that something is happening, like some research, and that there is the will, for sure.
There is the will, sadly. So that brings me nicely to the next question, because obviously we've seen recently Trump and the US administration looking at Greenland, you know, for its mineral wealth and for national security reasons, is what they say. When a world leader talks about buying or securing a territory like Greenland, or Antarctica, how dangerous actually is that? What's the threat when there are no local people there to say no?
Yeah, I think this is coming back to what Clara was mentioning before. So we all see the things related to humans. as well. Like, if you think, okay, there is no one in Antarctica, then we just think it's an empty place. But actually, Antarctica itself is there. The ecosystems are there. So we don't have humans beside the scientists and the scientific bases that are there, but there are whales, there are crees, there are penguins. So you don't have the voice of maybe humans like it's happening in Greenland, luckily protesting against what Trump wants. But the ecosystems are there. And that's actually also what we want with Antarctic rights, that this voice that maybe is not the same language that we are speaking at the moment, but is represented. And so recognizing the rights of Antarctica and the rights of all the ecosystems, including the Southern Ocean, will give the options to actually have this grassroots initiative arriving directly from Antarctica. Antarctica can sit on a court and sue, let's say, Trump. That's the ideal word for me as well. But you really have like the voice of Antarctica, the voice of ecosystems that can really fight against those this anthropocentric view as well, because that's the point. If you think, okay, there is no one that can really raise the voice, then it's always from a human-centric perspective. I can do something. I can see Antarctica and ecosystems are a resource.
Giving nature its own voice.
Yeah.
So just for some more examples for people, obviously Clara already mentioned the river in northern Spain that she was helping to give legal personhood to. There's also in New Zealand, there are two places, the Wanganui River and also the Te Urewera Forest. These places have both been given legal personhood. So the river or the forest itself can sue, can sit in a court of law and defend itself. Tell us, also, I've heard that they're thinking about doing that for whales as well, for the animals.
Yeah,
whales.
there is a proposal.
Whales are also being considered to be given legal personhood. Tell us, is that what they've done in New Zealand? Does that provide a roadmap for what you're doing in Antarctica?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people think that we are just tree huggers or rebels.
Ice huggers.
Exactly. Or whales lovers. We are. But there are precedents all around the world. It's not only in New Zealand. There are 40 countries around the world that are recognizing rights of nature in some ways, like more than 200 laws. Ecuador has it in the Constitution, actually, since 2008. So we have a blueprint that we can follow. There are examples, there are successes. I still remember when I heard about rights of nature the first time, and they told me about the story of a small frog that actually went to court to fight against a mining company.
Wow.
Please check it out, because it was very powerful, and I really wish that we can live in a world where I can see a penguin go to court,
It sounds like
river.
a children's storybook in the best way. A little frog goes to court, I would read that.
Yeah, exactly. And also, when I talk to children about it, they don't think it's a weird idea. It's always when I talk to grow up that they are always like looking at the details. Oh yes, but how we can do that? How we can? I think we need to bring back the imagination, bring back also remembering what is our relationship with nature. I was also listening to a panel with some Maori actually before 1 hour ago, and they were really like talking about the relationship with whales, for example. And I think that's also what we need to bring back into also the legal system. As they said, again, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, but law can be a very powerful tool, so we need to use it.
Yeah. And just going back to the people, because we've been talking about Antarctica, you've been working with both the Maori and the Tahitian communities as well, so Tahiti and from New Zealand, as well as First Nations in Canada.
Yep.
People might wonder, why involve those people in a place where no one lives? What do these cultures maybe understand about the rights of the Southern Ocean that Western law has ignored for so long?
One thing that I learned from Antarctica is actually that you don't need to live in a place to have a relationship with that place. And also, you don't need to experience that place to have a relationship with that place. I've never been to Antarctica. I never saw a whale. I'm obsessed with whales as well. I'm obsessed with Antarctica. And so the point, I think, for me is that you don't really need to be there to advocate for it. Or I think it's also sometimes, I said, empathy basic subscription. Like, I don't need to know all the humankind to be empathetic, to support, for example, Philippines. I've never been there. So I think that's the first definition, the first thing that I wanted to say. And the second is also, there are stories that the Maori, the people in the Pacific have about Antarctica. So they have really a strong relationship with Antarctica, even though like they've never been there or they've been there in the past. Because one thing that I also want to mention is that Vishad also said, there is this image of Antarctica as well. There is a fragile place, a place that needs to be protected, a bit of a victim portrait, a mindset. And Antarctica has been portrayed also as a place that needed to be conquered by, of course, white male. But there is a different stories about Antarctica, women being in Antarctica, indigenous people that have this relationship. So also what we do with Antarctic rights is to not using indigenous people as a token or as a symbol, but really learn from them.
Yeah.
Like, what is the relationship that they have with the ecosystems, with the rivers, with the mountains, with the glaciers, and how can we learn from that and put that into a system like our legal systems. And that's where I think also Nicole was mentioning before, it's the collaboration with different expertise, different background, different tools and mindsets.
So important what we can learn from them. And so, you know, just for us sitting here right now in Paris, if the Antarctic ice sheet melts, the sea will rise by 58 meters. And what that would do is that would physically erase the Pacific Islands we were just talking about. They would cease to exist. And I think that's something really important for us to bring into this conversation right now, because as you say, Antarctica can feel really far away. It's just a place for penguins, but it's not. It actually underpins a lot of our civilization and a lot of what we do. So what I want to ask you about, lastly, is this idea of treating nature as kind of natural capital, because I've heard that spoken about quite a lot at Change Now over the last few years. And in Antarctica, that would mean basically putting a price tag on the ice to show and to represent its economic value. You've called this a double-edged sword. Is there a risk, do you think, that by putting a price on nature, we kind of just make it easier for someone to buy it and then they can destroy it? Or is it a chance to invest money into a continent that really needs it?
I'm totally against this. So I will make an example. I will give you an example. So I'm Italian. I love food. I make an amazing focaccia. I know, Italian cliché. So let's say that I deserve to live just because I bake this amazing focaccia. And so you are kind of giving me this value. You are just allowing me to exist just because I'm useful for something. When actually I just have the rights and I deserve to thrive, to exist just because I exist. And it's the same for nature. It's not just because Antarctica is an earth keeper that deserves to live. Maybe Antarctica can just be there, mind their own business, and that's it. It would be perfectly fine as well. So if we put a price on nature, we're also implicitly saying that nature is a resource, is a commodity, and can be traded. So I think what we need to really change is that nature is not an object, it's not a resource, but we are part of nature. So if you're saying this about Antarctica or a river, then you can say the same for me, as I said, or just for you. Like, you're just useful because you are a very good writer. But no, you can just be yourself too, and it's the same for nature. And that's a bit of the mindset that in the global north we need to have and we need to change. It's just nature has the right to thrive and to exist just because is a living entity.
I was talking to Namonte Nankimo earlier, who's part of the Waorani tribe, lives in the Amazon in Ecuador, and she was saying that the word nature doesn't exist in Ecuador because humans, trees, plants are all the same, so they don't separate nature from humans, and it reminds me a bit of what you're saying there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very last question, because we have to end now, but this is such a fascinating conversation. I think we could be here for another 2 hours. So last question is, if you could take if you could take one diplomat or a politician currently, who's arguing, for example, in New York at the moment or at the UNGA, and drop them in the middle of the Antarctic ice shelf for 10 minutes, what is the one thing you think they would understand then that they currently don't now?
I will challenge this question because, as I said before, I don't think you need to be there.
Yeah.
So probably actually to see the consequences of what's happening in Antarctica, because that's also the point. Like, it's not you are having deforestation in the Amazon and you see it's there, it's happening. Like, all of us burning fossil fuels all over the world has a consequence in Antarctica. And I don't need to be strictly in Antarctica to see that. I can be in the Philippines. So I think that's also, like, I will make them think about this connection. Like, you can bring someone everywhere in the world and already be experiencing that this is happening in the Philippines, this is happening in Italy, I live in the Netherlands, I'm from Sardinia, so I'm already living that as well. So I think that's probably, I think you don't need to be in Antarctica to see it. We are already causing this here and right now.
Very last question. You're Italian. What
Yes.
made you get involved in Antarctica? You've never been? Just tell us your personal connection.
Just short, like if I have to summarize everything in an answer, is ignorance. Because I'm from Sardinia, I'm from an island, and I study diplomacy. And so I should be aware of sea level rises. And again, I live in the Netherlands, so I'm surrounded by water. I should be worried. And I also should know what was happening in the governance of Antarctica, and I didn't know. And then I really thought, if even me, then I'm already like in a privileged position as a white woman in the global north, I don't know about it, and I didn't care about it, then yeah, I should be better. And so it literally came from ignorance. And then I discovered a different world. I discovered a super colorful place. Antarctica is not white. Check it out, the pictures. That's also why I wanted to have this picture, because it's an amazing place. And like, I love whales. I love krill. Krill is this super small shrimp that is the base of the food chain, and it glows. You can see it from the space. Check it out as well. Like, it's really an amazing place, and I think once you discover about Antarctica and our relationship with Antarctica, there is no way back. So,
thank you so much, Roberta Bosu.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Maeve. I almost got emotional.